Is there beef in the Mile High City? Apparently, Michael Malone and Calvin Booth are not seeing eye to eye. And we don't mean that literally, even though literally they are not. But metaphorically, there seems to be a little bit of a disconnect in what exactly the Nuggets are doing going into this year. We're going to talk about all that and more. My dude, Ryan Blackburn, here on Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome into Locked On Nuggets. This is your host, Swiper. This is your team every day. Shout out to y'all. I haven't seen y'all in a couple weeks. I don't know if you can see the tan is looking mystifying. I've been in Florida. I've been in Texas. I've been traveling around trying to get things done while we're still in the dead of off season. But I got my dude, Ryan Blackburn, the man, the myth, the legend himself with me. How you doing today, brother?
Man, I'm all right. I enjoyed a nice football opener last night. That was a lot of fun. A lot of interesting things happened in that. But I've been doing a lot of research on the Nuggets lately as well, and been getting into some Julian Strawther stuff that I'll talk later on my show. But he's such an interesting player. The Nuggets this year are very interesting.
Right. Well, y'all, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get 3 weeks free trial on NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Y'all, so apparently there's a report coming around from Zach Lowe that Michael Malone and Calvin Booth, head coach, and then the GM of the Denver Nuggets, they seem to be a little bit at odds in the direction of the overall team and what they're supposed to be doing this year. Now, if you've been around at all, myself, Matt, Adam, Ryan, on his many other platforms that he's a part of, we've all talked about this, that there is seemingly a little bit of a rift in strategy. If you look at the Denver Nuggets right now, they have a host of rookie contracts on the roster, from Peyton Washington, Christian Brown, Julian Strawther, Hunter Tyson, Jalen Pickett, and obviously DeRon Holmes, who's going to be out all year because of an Achilles injury. They have a lot of young players while having a veteran-laden team that has 4 players all in their prime that make up the core 4 of the Denver Nuggets, and they just let KCP walk. So where do things stand with this team? Michael Malone has traditionally been a dude and a coach that needs to have players that are veterans, that know how to play basketball, and you really don't have to teach them as they go all that much. And again, a lot of that is just because that's just where Jokic is. Jokic is 29 years old, Jamal's 27 years old, MPJ is 26, and then you're also getting Aaron Gordon 29 this year as well. The team, it's just a bunch of veterans, and they're all in their mid to late 20s, and this is kind of the time where you need reliable players that are going to help you win regular season games, to take pressure off of the core 4, but that's also going to help you in spots that you need to continue to develop. So they get Russell Westbrook, apparently at Nikola Jokic's request, and then they're going to look at their roster and say, Julian Strawther, Peyton Watson, and Christian Brown, that is going to be the hope to our future with no KCP here. So, Ryan, when you think about how the team has been formulated from free agency to the draft, and then you hear about some of the reports that are coming out that they might not be seeing eye to eye in Malone and in Calvin Booth, what are your thoughts on it? What do you think about it? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, I posted last night that I think the question is how much of a rift there is, how much of this actually matters, because you generally have a coach and a front office, a coach and a GM they have the same goal in trying to win a championship, but they're supposed to go about it in different ways. Malone sort of manages the day-to-day, and Booth sort of manages the week-to-week, the year-to-year, trying to figure out how to best maximize the championship window. He christened himself the steward of the Nikola Jokic era. And his, I think, entire point in this is trying to give the Nuggets some sustainability. They thought that KCP wouldn't make them sustainable in terms of re-signing him for a 3-year, 4-year kind of deal. They didn't really go to the well to try to re-sign him. Michael Malone, obviously, he sees that. He sees some of the moves that they've made in the past. They traded Reggie Jackson along with 3 second-round picks for nothing. And he sees those moves and sees that they are against the competitive interests of the Denver Nuggets. And I tend to side with Malone on that one because I didn't think that there was a good plan in place to replace the lack of or the talent that the Nuggets gave up. And I've said that a couple times. I thought that they should go out and make another deal to try to add a veteran to their group. Calvin Booth did not do that. Maybe he tried. Maybe there were some things that he was attempting to do that was part of the plan A for the group that didn't actually get done. That hasn't come out yet. But I just got to imagine that, is this really the best way to maximize Denver's championship window while Jokic is now 29? Murray is in his final year of his contract and could potentially walk in free agency if things are not taken care of. Michael Porter, we don't know how healthy he's going to be for the length of his career. Aaron Gordon's in the final year of his deal. Like, things could fall apart rather quickly for this team if they don't get it done. And I don't think thinking about the 3, 4, 5 years into the future is the best way to win a championship right now.
Yeah, I think that I was one of the ones that said that KCP should resign. I was hoping he would, but he didn't. And there was clearly financial reasons for why that happened. But I do think that we're in a situation now where we're just looking at a team that is like kind of trying to walk the line of the CBA agreement while also build a contender. While also, as Calvin Booth said, that he is the protector. He is the one that has to orchestrate the Nikola Jokic legacy. And we're looking at the season and saying, there just seems to be a lot of shaky ground around the team right now. And we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but even the perception of the team, Ryan, is some people just don't legitimately think that they're one of the best teams in the NBA right now. They think that there's a tier between them and the top of the Western Conference. And it's tough to think that because Jokic has been so good and been so dominant and probably, Lord willing, will be healthy and dominant for the near future and then hopefully the long future. But when you're in a team with like this, where you're having Jamal Murray on a last year of his contract, didn't play well in the playoffs, didn't play well in the Olympics, and now he's staring down, is he going to re-sign? Maybe, maybe not. Aaron Gordon needs an extension. Michael Porter Jr. honestly looks great. He's been working out. He's putting workout videos and stuff up. He looks like he's in wonderful shape. The team questions Russell Westbrook. What's his fit going to be? Is he going to be able to close games? Is he okay with taking a secondary role coming off the bench? Christian Brown, his shooting, will it get better from the corners? Will his mid-range shooting get better? Can he hold up and get to the rim and finish well? Peyton Watson, is he going to hit mid-range shots? Is he going to hit three-point shots? Are they going to be gapping off of him all year? Julian Strawther, 29% from three last year, but he clearly has the technique, clearly has the jump shot. Can he convert those three-pointers? Dario Saric didn't play super well with the Warriors. Okay, well, Dario, can you give us good minutes? Be a good DHO big. Can you switch enough with the bench to make it viable? Vlatko Čančar, can you make it healthy through the season? Is DJ going to play? That's a lot
of ifs, man.
That's the whole roster outside of Joker and MPJ.
Yeah. I honestly think that there's an argument that MPJ is the second steadiest player in terms of what you can expect for the next 3 years, particularly because Murray and Gordon are on expiring deals. And one of the reasons why this obviously came up was because Zach was talking about the Murray extension and how there is a possibility that they go into the season without a contract. You know what I've been reporting. You know what I've been saying. You know that I've said that this was going to take a little bit longer than I think people expected. And I think that there is some definite pushback there from Murray's side about, hey, they are not necessarily offering what they can offer. And Calvin Booth, I think, is trying to hold on to some of that flexibility because, as many people in the chat and as many people in the YouTube comments like to remind me, Jamal Murray hasn't made an all-star yet, and he failed in the playoffs this year. There's a reason why they are trying to withhold some flexibility. So Denver's in a tough position because if what we think the average outcome of this team happens, then they are not going to win a championship. They have to have a lot of things happen, a lot of things go right, because they have not put themselves into the best position this year and last year to win because they don't have as much talent as they did in 2023. And that to me is where Michael Malone and Calvin Booth not seeing eye to eye is most noticeable, because Malone is seeing guys walk and he's seeing guys not being replaced. And he's wondering, what am I supposed to do? Do I just continue to develop these young guys? Most veteran championship teams replace their veterans with veterans. And the fact that Denver has not done that, I think says a lot about, one, Calvin Booth's strategy and what he's known for, but two, that they're trying to go about this a different and sometimes abnormal and not like usually expected way. And sometimes that doesn't work.
Yeah. On the other side, we're going to get into, is this going to be an issue all year? Will this get resolved? Can this be resolved? Will this agreement cascade into a whole nother set of issues? We're going to talk about all that and more on the other side here at Locked On Nuggets. Y'all, you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We've all have something to talk about with it, but we got something a little bit different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need to do is get a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. And if that's not enough, FanDuel also has something special for our listeners this weekend. Be sure to check out FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app and use it for FanDuel's Double Your Winnings for all Sunday 9-8 to pregame moneyline bets. Profit Boost will be live starting Friday, September 6th. You can now view your account page and learn more about your boost. Just visit FanDuel.com. Download America's #1 sportsbook, and we'll be right back for more here on Locked On Nuggets. Y'all, we are back here for Locked On Nuggets. This is your host, Swiper. This is your team every day. I'm with my dude, Ryan Blackburn, Mile High Sports. Y'all, make sure that if you're on the YouTube side, you're liking, sharing, and subscribing. We're on the way to 10,000 subscribers on the YouTube side. Let's get it there, y'all, by the end of the season. If you're listening to this on Apple iTunes, make sure to give us a 5-star review. That way, more and more people can listen to the great content being made here at Locked On Nuggets as we dredge and talk through the regular season and the off season. And oh boy, we got a lot of stuff to get into. So y'all, is this going to be a story all year, Ryan? Are we going to have to sit here and deal with, oh, here come the Nuggets. They're 15-7. They look really good, but oof, the starters are playing a lot of minutes. The young guns, they're not seeming to be able to get where they need to go. Thankfully, because of the greatness of the starting five, Russell Westbrook, it looks like he's plausible, looks like a positive addition. Is this going to be the noise all year? What do you think is going to take for the Nuggets to be able to kind of get rid of some of the stuff about the offseason and the young roster and letting KCP walk? What do you think is going to have to change? You're muted, Ron.
I muted myself. Signing some extensions would be a great idea. That would be something that, if I'm the Nuggets, I try to get a win in the public column. I try to re-sign Jamal Murray. I try to re-sign Aaron Gordon, make sure that the core of the team is locked up going forward, because not only is it advantageous to keep those guys under contract for your team, it's advantageous that if things don't necessarily work out, that you can trade those players going forward and try to work out a deal with other teams that makes sense for the rest of your season, for the rest of your potential tenure with Jokic under contract. I think it's important for Denver to find a deal that is like suitable for them and suitable for Murray and suitable for Gordon if they could potentially make that work. And that would, I think, quiet some of the stuff that could come out on Media Day, because Media Day, I think, is in 3 weeks. Denver's going to Abu Dhabi for preseason. And that means that they're going to start their media day just a little bit early. They start their training camp just a little bit early. And I'm going to ask Jamal, and I'm going to ask Calvin, and I'm going to ask Michael Malone about the Murray extension and about, hey, is everything okay there? And depending on the answers that I actually get, I think that things could get a little bit interesting with that group.
Look, if this was last summer and Jamal was coming off of the summer he had, I mean, the Nuggets would have flown the contract there, with the pigeon, with a hawk, a bald eagle, anything they had to do, a private jet in order to get it signed. But we're just at this point with Jamal again. We're 3 of the last 4 playoffs. He's had to deal with some kind of injuries. Again, not all his fault, but the Nuggets are having to evaluate, where do we go from here? Is he this player that's going to be like in and out of the roster, in and out of the lineup, playing 59 games, every year at 26, 27, 28, 29 years old? Can we afford to do that? And also can it give us 21 and 6 assists every year, that's really good. That's really good. But it's just not enough, I think, for $52 million a year for, I think, a lot of franchises.
Sure. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And I think
right.
one thing that you'll probably see, and one thing that I think people still do not understand about Denver's offense, is that it is really difficult for anybody to average a whole bunch of points, rebounds, and assists next to Jokic, who averages the most points, rebounds, and assists in the entire NBA. The ball goes through him. He touches it over 100 times a game. And sometimes it is difficult to accumulate numbers in that sort of setup. Now, Jamal could solve this by actually performing reasonably well in the non-Jokic minutes, which he has not done over the course of these past couple of years, especially this last year. And there are some things that he can improve in that regard, but I think that it is just going to be very interesting. So this take here from Brandon, can you throw that up on the screen? He averages 28 points a game in the playoffs with Jokic because he plays 42 minutes a night. You can't do that in the regular season. Now, can he average 23, 24 points per game in the regular season when he averages about 32 minutes a night? Sure. And I think he honestly should. The fact that he hasn't, I think, is more of a reflection of his inability to stay healthy and his inability to play consistently. So
I think that's really made up the free throw line. If he went to the free throw line more, he would average that because his free throw rate is low relative. And then on top of that, he's a really good free throw shooter, but he's really good at the rim most years. He's really good from mid-range and really good from 3. Yeah. Well, it's his finishing that's kind of been the thing that's been lagging behind in the regular season. Again, we talk about this, Ryan. If Jamal Murray, if he was able to elevate his game to an all NBA level player, then look, KCP can walk. But if the Nuggets had Jalen Brunson right now, there's still, a role player left. But Jalen Brunson, your Ja Morant, even your Donovan Mitchell, your Devin Booker, if they were on the roster, people just wouldn't feel this way. But I think a lot of the Nuggets and their issues is just it's not just KCP leaving, but Christian Brown's a really good defender. But I think most people are just looking at Jamal based on the end of the season in the playoffs and based on the Olympic, and they're just saying, look, we just don't think he's good enough. Ultimately,
and there's no doubt.
That's what it is.
The problem that you run into, of course, is that if he's not good enough, then how do you actually replace him? What do you need to do? What can you actually trade for him? Because I see a lot of people be like, just trade for Luka Doncic. Okay, well, fine. If Denver could do that, then they probably would. But the fact is that 1, they don't have the trade resources to get it done. And 2, why the hell would Dallas trade Luka Doncic for Jamal Murray? What's the point for them there? And you could say De'Aaron Fox, or you could say Darius Garland, but all of these questionable players that people might be sure, yeah, let's do that. The Nuggets might be interested in that, but asking other teams to then take on the same problems that the Nuggets are now taking on, could Denver get Trae Young or Damian Lillard in place of Jamal Murray, and would that be advantageous for them? I don't think they could get Trae Young. Could they get Damian Lillard? Would that even make sense? I don't think it would make sense. Dame is now going to be. It's just very.
He's 34. You don't think they could get Trae Young right now, where his value is?
No, because I think you need to add a couple first round picks that the team just doesn't. Now, maybe if you go Jamal Murray, Peyton Watson, Julian Strother, and your 2031 first round pick, and then a whole bunch of swaps, then sure.
Where are you getting this value that Trae Young's value is that high around the league right now?
I think that you could say that, again, you've argued this too, that he's closer to a top 15 player in the league.
Oh, yeah,
than
for
he
sure.
is
But that's just not how the NBA feels. The All-Star games represent that. All NBA represents that. The postseason GM rankings all represent that. Trae Young is just not considered like, they think he's, people think he's just empty stats, respectfully. I mean, I love Trae. Like, Trae's a 28 and 9 and 10 guy, like, basically. Like, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But, yeah, it's just, I don't even know. I don't know if they're going to get how many picks they would get for Trae. Just give him where his value's at. But I do think, though, this is where I think Russell Westbrook comes into it, man. If Russ is, we don't need him to be crazy, but if he can just play his role, be a smart point guard, play make, defend, we can see a lot of that. But, on the other side of this, we're going to talk about, are the Nuggets, are they a tier 2 team now without KCP? Because that seems to be the common sentiment around the Nuggets right now, given where the roster is. We're going to talk about all that and more here on Locked On Nuggets. Welcome back to Locked On Nuggets. This is your host, Swiper. This is your team every day. I'm with my boy, Ryan Blackburn of Mile High Sports, talking about your Denver Nuggets. So, Ryan Blackburn, the Hoop Collector came out today, and I heard Bontemps, one of the best. He said he thinks that the Thunder are in a class of their own in the Western Conference. And there seems to be this common sentiment that the Nuggets are just not primetime television right now because they're just not as good of a team as some of the people in the conference, and even some of the contenders they have in the conference that are below the Thunder. The Wolves might be better. The Mavericks might be better. Where do you stand currently with this team? Are you more down on them now because KCP's gone and, we're in the situation where we're relying on young guys, and so therefore they're not as good as OKC? Where do you kind of stand with where the team is right now?
I think the ceiling of the team is still a tier 1 contender. I don't think that you could argue otherwise if you're anybody, frankly, because Joker is still Joker. We've seen what Jamal can do when he's healthy and when he's capable in the playoffs. We've seen what the team looks like when everything is functioning correctly. And I do think that Christian Brown can replicate what KCP did from the shooting guard position. I think he can especially do it on the defensive end. Offensively, we'll just have to wait and see. But I do think that the average outcome, like the 90% outcome for what Denver is rather than an outlier outcome, is tier 2. And the reason for that is because we know what Denver is right now. We know what their talent level is right now. And if you expect minimal to moderate improvement from the young guys, then I don't think that's enough. I don't think that that is enough to really overthrow what OKC has finally built, where you have a traditional center playing next to Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein. You have one of the best perimeter guard defenders in the league in Alex Caruso replacing Josh Giddey. And those were two of the biggest weaknesses for the Thunder that they have now affirmed into strengths. And you are turning what I think were some of the unfortunate parts of OKC. Like, they will probably be a top 3 defense this year, like based strictly on the fact that they removed Josh Giddey from the equation. They're going to play less big man Jalen Williams. So they're going to play Isaiah Hartenstein, who was a great defender for New York last year. So this is going to be a really interesting matchup. And I think if those two teams matched up in the playoffs, then you're probably still looking at a 6 or 7 game series. And then maybe Joker wins it because he's the best player in the world. But Jamal's going to go through hell in that series trying to get free of Lou Dort, Alex Caruso, Cason Wallace, and then his, like, the breath of fresh air that he gets is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who led the league in steals last year. So it's going to be tough for those guys. And they are so well coached and they are so dynamic and young and energetic that I think that they could run the Nuggets off the floor at times in some of those moments. Now, and it could look a lot like the Minnesota series, frankly, where Denver finds a way to turn it into a long series, but there will be like the average possession in that Minnesota series was Denver breathing heavy and like it looking really, really difficult.
Yeah, I think the issue is, man, I'm not as down on the collective just because, again, like when the core plays, like they were so indomitable, they just ran out of gas at the end of the year. But really, it's going to be about maintenance for me, Ryan. Like, can they maintenance the starters? Can they maintenance the core four? And really, mostly Jamal, Aaron Gordon, and Jokic. MPJ is like, he looks, I don't know if you people seen film of him. He looks amazing now. Like, he doesn't stop working out. He looks like he's in the gym all the time. He's locked in all the time. And I just think that if you can just find like guys to be able to play through the season to get you to the playoff, can you trust Westbrook and Dario and Julian and Peyton and Vlatko Chanchar? If they can stay healthy, it changes the dynamic of the team. But, I do think, man, like it's just they're going to be in a situation now, though, where everyone's looking at you because they're like, okay, is this method going to work? You got a bunch of young guys in your roster. Is it going to work? If it does, they can create another path in a new CBA to be able to deal with all these restrictions. But again, I just told you, I told you before, Ryan, like it's just NBA history. You don't typically win with younger players and younger mindsets and immaturity. Immaturity as in, I don't know what I don't know. You have to have older players on the roster, but it's just going to be a lot up to chance. And I think that's the thing about coaching and about being a GM. It's like being a GM. It's like, I'm going to leave it all up to chance. And, we'll see. Hopefully the young players develop, let's give them some time and all that stuff. And coaches are just like, no, I need to know somebody I can play today, right now, help us secure this game versus the Kings on the road.
Yeah.
Is Peyton, Christian, and Julian, are they going to be the ones to be able to do that?
Kind of circling back to the tier 1 versus tier 2 thing. KCP by himself doesn't change that. We learned that from Bruce Brown last year, that Bruce Brown by himself doesn't change that. It is about if you can find a way to replace those guys with reasonable talent and contributions and
Right.
just possession to possession. Do you have players that can solve problems? And the one thing that really hurt them last year without Bruce was they had 3 or so different guys that they could have for different situations.
Right.
Reggie was a guy who you could use for ball handling and creation.
Right.
Peyton was a guy you could use for defense. And Christian was a guy who you used for athleticism and toughness and grit and things like
Right.
that. And with Bruce, you had somebody who did all 3 of those things.
Yeah.
And he could be on the floor and you never had to really change who you were, but he could fill each of those different roles really well. The same is going to be for KCP here, because I think that Christian Brown can fill in for him from a defensive standpoint, but can he fill in from him from a shooting standpoint and a DHO kind of standpoint and creation and take some burden off of Murray that way? No. So then you bring in Julian Strother, who I think is going to be able to do that from an offensive standpoint, but can he survive defensively in the playoffs? Probably not. And so you're continuing to break down your team more and more and more into different chunks of contributions, when in reality, you just need the best possible 7 or 8 guys that you can get. And that to me is where I think they are a tier 2 team. I think they are officially a tier 2 contender in the NBA. Now, tier 2 in the West, I don't know about, but like tier 2 contender in the NBA, I think they are behind Boston and OKC.
Do you think Dallas is in front of the Nuggets?
No, I think they are also in tier 2. I think that OKC should be in a tier by themselves in the West.
I'm trying to think through who else would be the Wolves. Dallas.
It's really just the Wolves, and so you got the 4 West teams, obviously.
Respect the Kings, DeMar DeRozan edition.
What are you talking about? You must be out of your flippin' mind if you just said that verbatim.
Whoa. Seriously, Memphis Grizzlies?
Memphis, I will give you. Y'all
see how he disrespects the Kings like that? You should send this to SAC fans. Tell them, swipe it, defended them, and Ryan Blackburn burned them.
Brother, like it's 1, it's the Kings. 2, it's DeMar DeRozan. Like I understand that he will fill a role and like prop them up just a little
One
bit.
of the best mid-range shooters of all time.
In the regular season, that is true. But the problem, of course, is what is going on in the comments, man? The problem, of course, is that the Kings, like the West is just so freaking talented, man. Like you've got the Kings and the Grizzlies and some of these other teams. Like you could talk about the two LA teams. You could talk about Golden State. I don't really feel the need to talk about any of them.
No,
because I don't think that they matter.
Golden State fans were mad at me because I said their roster is the roster of a playing team. They're like, I can't wait to see the Nuggets lose. I'm like, what do you think they are? I don't understand this.
They probably have a better bench than the Nuggets, but that's because that their 2 through 5 is legit garbage.
So Buddy Hield and but here's the thing. I didn't say that, by the way. Locked On Warriors.
I did.
Yeah, please go to his mentions. Wait, 5 ish. What? Matt is. Look. First off, I need y'all to know this about Matt Moore. Okay, I need you to understand this about Matt.
It's analytical.
Matt texts me now every time the Chiefs are playing. He texts me. Okay, he texted me last night, and he's upset that I have an opinion that's not shared about the Chiefs and their officials and all that other stuff. Every time the Broncos are mentioned at all during the season when he plays, he's going to text me. Don't believe Matt Moore when he's in those moods. Okay, he's going to be on with you, I think, this weekend as well. Don't trust him right now. Okay, he's emotional. All right, the Chiefs just got Xavier Worthy. He scored 2 TDs yesterday. He's out. He's all over the place. Tell him I said this when he does the show, by the way. But look, I personally think that the Nuggets are like. I mean, he said they're not going to win 46 games last year. And I know he did that based on the numbers. And so I think 49 was the number. I can't remember what the number was. I still think the Nuggets are going to end up being like a top 3 seed just because of the way it works. They're just going to win a lot of games. But I mean, I think the Thunder, I think they should be ahead of them just because of where they are. But playoff time, I still think they're going to beat everybody, like more than likely. The problem with the Nuggets are they're going to get to by trade deadline, Ryan. They don't have the solutions on the roster that they love. Will they make the move on the charge to get there? Because the whole point of resign KCP, Ryan, to have flexibility, to be able to make moves, to be able to make adjustments. Do you think if they get to the trade deadline, they're like, look, we're still like a top 4 seed, top 3 seed, but we're clearly missing something? Do you think they'll be in a position at that point to be able to make a little bit of a swing to upgrade the roster?
Well, being able to duck the second apron does help with that. Like if you're above the second apron, then it's really, really difficult because you're probably trading KCP at that point, and you can't trade him for any contract that's larger than his. So you probably have to break his contract up into 2 smaller pieces anyway.
Right.
So I think that they just kind of sped up that process just a little bit. But no, I think if they are in a position where they have a clear need, they will look to fulfill the need. They will. If there is a situation where Russell Westbrook's not working out as the backup point guard and they need a second out, or they need another ball handler that's a little bit.
Oh, you mean like Chris Dunn?
Or Ayo Dosunmu? That would be my plea to the Nuggets organization. Then that would be great. But it is interesting that Chris Dunn now goes to the Clippers. They clearly wanted him, and the Clippers let go of Russell Westbrook. So we will see.
That's the only thing about Booth that I think for me just boggles my brain a little bit. I'm just like the Reggie Jackson trade for 3 second-round picks. You could easily just got to swap with Utah for Chris Dunn if they're just going to give him away. If you just want a veteran that's like you can trust in, that like you can put on the roster. I just don't understand. Like I really truly don't get not just trading Reggie Jackson and the 2 second-round picks for that matter to Utah for a player you can use. Because if you're watching Jalen Pickett, there's no way, Ryan, that I'm coming away as a GM looking at Jalen Pickett saying he's ready for that job. He's just not. So, like, why would not have a viable option in place just to make sure that if he's not ready, you can do what you need to do? That part for me is what I am most lost on.
Yeah, I have no idea, man. Like, frankly, I think that it's very possible that Trey Alexander's playing in the playoffs.
Man, that would be rough. All right, y'all. That's going to do it here for Locked On Nuggets with Swiper and my boy, Ryan Blackburn of Mile High Sports. We'll see y'all again soon. We're going to have a lot of stuff coming out soon because the Nuggets are going to get into training camp. They're going to get into the season, and we'll be back here every single day of the week. Y'all know what time it is, Swiper Gang? Locked On Nuggets. See y'all on the other side.